Assalamualaikum, shlankum shukbarkum. Good evening, everyone. So today I will discuss about the structure of economic globalization. So at the end of this discussion, the learners were able to define what is globalization. Number two, we can identify the actors that facilitate economic globalization. Number three, we can define the modern world system. And number four, we can articulate a stance on global economic integration. So, an economic globalization, it is a strong force that defines the contemporary world, so that the public and private domains are driven by the force of economic globalization, like reduced transportation and communication costs. So where before, in 80 years back, people also experienced technological and innovation backward, but it is slow. So at this era of globalization, when it comes to economics, the transportations and communication are easy to access. The example for this is the shopping. When we say our product, we will buy products from China and Japan. So it is easy for us to access just one tap of our gadgets like cell phone and tablets. There are many scholars that give their perspective about what is really an economic globalization mean. First is Janice Mae in 1996. He says that globalization is a myth of expanding interconnection where markets dominates government, or the government by markets. He says that the government was dominated by the market, or the market has the power to control the government. In order for you to understand what he really wants to imply about his perspective, I will give you an example. The best example I can give you is the oil market versus the US and Iran conflict. The war between the US and Iran makes the oil crisis affecting the world market and spread it in worldwide and affect even the countries that does not directly involve the war. Like for example, in our country. Our country is not directly involved of the war, but we are affected by the world market prices. The oil shortage make the oil hike, or the oil price hike. So the government was dominated by the world market and declares price hike and even fair hike. So that is what we call government by market. Janice Mae also highlight two code words that describe our economy. First is the code word of the new era, which is globalization, and the second is the code of the past, which is multilateralism. So Janice Mae says globalization, or the code of the new era, he believes that the economy is becoming borderless and even seen market dominant, shaping economies across borders. And he also identifies the second code word, or the code of the past, multilateralism, or he says, or he believes that the system where there are three or more countries cooperates through agreements. So he identified the two kind of code word, where is globalization, where is markets dominate, borderless, and second is the multilateralism, wherein the countries agree through agreement or cooperate through agreement. The second scholar that give perspective about economic globalization is Tuka. On 2013, he gave his perspective about the International Monetary Fund. He defines that globalization as a historical process shaped by human innovation and technological process. He says that our monetary fund is shaped nowadays in a human innovation, wherein there are technological progress. I can give you an example that describe what he believes about economy globalization or economic globalization. He says that innovational and technological progress. The best example I can give you is the rise of digital banking, like application apps like GCash, PayMaya, PayPal that reflects innovation that reshape transactional or financial transaction globally. Nowadays, we can use our global banking or our online banking or the one-tap banking, which is the GCash, the PayPal, and Maya. So through that, we can connect globally, just single tap, 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 and we can exchange our monetary fund worldwide in just single tap. So it reflects the innovation and technological progress made by human. He believes that economic is made by human and innovation. The third scholar that give perspective about economic globalization is Mohan on 2009. He focuses on free movement of goods, capital, services, and technology. So Mohan implies that, or he believes that global economic globalization is shaped by movement of goods, capital, services, and technology. In order for you to understand what he wants to imply about this perspective, I will give you an example. When we say services, Filipino, we are rendering our service abroad. So we are entitled of being an overseas Filipino workers. So exporting people or giving services to other country is also called a globalization, and it is belong on the services we can offer to other country. And second is our capital. We invest our money, we invest capital services or even businesses in other country. So through that OFW remittances sent through Western Union or online banking sustain families and boost the Philippine economy. So number one taxpayers that help our country is the overseas Filipino workers or the OFW abroad. They give remittances and taxes that boost our economy and our economic system in the Philippines. The fourth scholar that give perspective on economic globalization is KPAC 2011. KPAC highlights competition and improved communication and transportation. In order for you to understand what he wants to imply, I will give you an example. Before, when I was an OFW way back 2012, the only aircraft that fly from Philippines to other part of the world is Philippine Airlines. But through competition of transportation, the Philippines can compete globally through aircraft from Philippine Airlines to 3 aircraft: AirAsia, Cebu Pacific, and Philippine Airlines. Through that kind of international travel, they can offer cheaper and fast mobility of tourism. So we can fly in different part of the world using our aircraft, not just one, but 3. The Philippine Airlines, the AirAsia, and Cebu Pacific. So he says that competition of transportation. So before we can fly just one aircraft, but now there are 3 aircraft that can fly from Philippines to other part of the world, and even our communication is faster than before. Now we have our messenger, we have our WhatsApp, and even our Instagram. So he says competition of mobility and communication. So our Philippines can compete globally through that transportation. And the fifth and last scholar that give perspective about economic globalization is Cuevas Garcia Dorado and others. On 2019, they highlight the socio-cultural changes and information flows. So if you are a fan of a K-pop, a Korean drama, Chinese anime, or even Japanese anime, so it is an example of socio-cultural changes and even information flows. We copy on what we've seen in other cultures, like their dresses, their food, their likes, and even how they speak. We copy them. So it is what we call information flows. So if we are watching Netflix, it is also demonstrate how the culture flows alongside or it is considered also a trade of culture. So they believe, Cuevas and Garcia Dorado, that there are socio-cultural changes and information flow in economic globalization. At this point, let's talk about the historical context of economic globalization. So long before colonization, Filipinos already trade gold, spices with Chinese and Arab traders. So there is already a trade before. So we trade our gold, our pearl, our tortoise and shells to our partners, Arabs and Chinese, silk, porcelain, jade, and beads. And in Arab, we trade cloves and cinnamon and spices, perfumes, and even the religion. So before, there is already trade happen. And the first trade is the galleon trade in 1565 to 1815, linked Manila to Acapulco, and certifying global exchange. The trade is named the galleon trade. So they passed the Suez Canal on 1869, shortened trade route between Europe and Asia, boosting the trade. So there are also term called mercantilism, wherein the nation is measured the power by their gold reserves. So best example for mercantilism is the Spain colonized the Philippines partly to exploit gold and spices. So today, countries like US and China still measure their economic strength through gold reserves and current stability. So if the country has many gold reserves, means the economic is very healthy and they are considered as strong country, and it is called mercantilism. There are 4 future scenarios of globalization. First, globalization 5.0 reconnection. Number 2, analog network virtual nationalism. Number 3, digital dominance or agile platforms. Number 4 is autarkic world or fragmentation. Let's discuss first the globalization 5.0 reconnection. Reconnection means stronger alliances or renewed alliances and cooperation among nations in the present era. The best example I can give you on globalization 5.0 reconnection is the ASEAN free trade agreements that encourage regional cooperation. So Philippines is one of the member of ASEAN organization. Number 2 is analog network or virtual nationalism. When we say virtual nationalism, it is the technology splinters across borders. When we say splinters, it means countries create their own separate technology ecosystem to protect national interest, culture, and sovereignty. Even technology is rampant nowadays. The country create their own set of system that separate the technology or the ecosystem of their technology. Like for example, the firewall of China, they have their limit access to platform like Google and Facebook. Same with Middle East, they have their firewall on Facebook and TikTok. So even nowadays, technology is very rampant. The countries create their own separate technology ecosystem to protect national interest and cultural sovereignty, and that is called a virtual nationalism. Number 3 is dominance agile platform. When we say agile platforms, it is a tech-enabled dominate or digital system or app designed to be flexible, adaptive, and responsive. The best example in agile platform is the Grab, Gcash, and Foodpanda reshape everyday life in the Philippines. So digital dominance. So we are dominated now through dominance economy or economic globalization. Example here in the Philippines is the Grab, Gcash, and even Foodpanda. We can order, we can pay through online The last one is the autarkic world fragmentation, or the militarized economies, or the Iron Curtain in tech. The best example I can give you for this autarkic world fragmentation is the West Philippine Sea. Philippines versus China, wherein Philippines rely on US as military support rather than globally open trade. So we have already fight our West Philippine Sea with the Chinese. So we rely, or we partnered our military to US to protect our Philippine Sea, West Philippine Sea through the China. So we rely on US on military support rather than on globally open trade. So our government focus on that particular problem rather than to trade globally. So it is called autarkic world fragmentation. At this point, we will tackle the key actors in globalization. So there are actors in globalization. We have international organization and we have corporation. So these big two key actors of globalization. So let's talk about international organization, the intergovernmental organization, the supranational, and the international organization. So when we say intergovernmental organization, it is a countries that cooperates but keep their sovereignty. So, like for example, the Philippines, we are members of the United Nations and ASEAN organization. But we cooperate, but we keep our own sovereignty. We cooperate, we trade, we talked about peace, we trade we transact every businesses, but we keep our sovereignty. We have our own laws, our own justice, and our own government. So it is called intergovernmental organization. We cooperate, but we keep our own sovereignty. Next is supranational. Supranational also, we cooperate, but we give our sovereignty, some kind of our sovereignty. The best example I can give you on supranational is the ICC court, or the International Criminal Court, which is happening nowadays with our former President Rodrigo Duterte. So, the International Criminal Court, we cooperate and we give some of our sovereignty. Like for example, our justice for genocide, crimes against religion and humanity, war on drugs, and even crime of aggression. So if a certain country cannot solve that kind of problem, we can ask help through the ICC court. So what happened to our President Rodrigo Duterte is we withdrew our membership on the ICC court on March 17, 2019. But his case is happened before that 2019, before we withdrew our organization alliance on the ICC. ICC is one of example of the supranational organization. We cooperate and we surrender some of our sovereignty. Like for example, our justice on genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. And last is the international NGOs. It refers to the Red Cross. Greenpeace addresses global issues like disaster relief or climate change. So it is the international. So let's talk about the second key actors in globalization, which is the corporation. So there are two kinds of corporation: multinational corporation, transnational corporation. So multinational corporation are corporation that operates in many countries but keeps their quality control in one. Like for example, Coca-Cola brand and McDonald's. McDonald's and Coca-Cola located in different part of the world, but they have their quality control in US because this product is US made. Second is the transnational corporation. The best example for this is the Samsung and Toyota that run production facilities across multiple nations, deeply integrated into globally supply chains. Like for example, when multinational corporation is controlled by one, transnational is not controlled by single country. So like for example, a cell phone product made by the Philippines, Samsung, but the materials used in that particular product came from China and Japan, and they sell it in a global supply chain. So it is a transnational corporation. They operate in different part of the world, but they don't have anyone who control their quality, or they don't have equality control. Example for this kind of corporation are the Tesla produces cars in the US, China, and Germany, showing how corporation operate globally. So that is how corporation considered as key actors in globalization.